if you see me looking down, it's because I'm deferring to the other phone for the chat instead of trying to lean in and flip this around and all this, that, and the other. I guess let's just set a standard here. I don't expect this to be the best live stream you've ever seen. It's been a while and I'm a little out of practice, but hopefully we can make this at least entertaining, even if it's just me fumbling over trying to get back into the practice of live streaming. Hopefully this is going out audio, video fine and all of that. If not, I guess let me know in the chat, but if you don't have audio, then you wouldn't be able to hear me saying that. The orientation looks screwed up. All right, let's see if we can flip that, maybe. No. Is that? Oh, that's just flipping the camera. Orientation is locked. Rotate device back. I'm turned. Yeah, awesome. Thank you for letting me know that. I guess we're going like this. The other option is to start it over. And I knew this was, well, I suspected this was going to be an issue because I kept hitting the orientation button. I'm going to try and flip around the, there we go. Bring this over here. Flip around the tripod. That's what it's called. This is quality entertainment right here. All right. So. I guess we're doing this. Ta-da. Okay. So now that we've fixed that at least, we get in frame here and get my chat back. And we'll just open this wide up and set it to all messages here. Ta-da! All right, well, now maybe we can get started. Appreciate you all being here. I know it's been a long time. I guess today, first I want to, I guess, address the question, where have you been? What are you up to? Do you keep fish still? A lot of the questions that I get when I do chime in or speak up in a live stream, which I've been doing more frequently lately. I've done a lot of lurking while I was absent, but I didn't generally say anything lately. I've been talking a bit more in the live stream chats. So even those of you that thought I wasn't around, I've still been watching. But I get a lot of questions, understandably. So I guess we'll address that first, and then we can kind of take a look around at where we're at now and where to go from there. Because it's going to be an interesting journey, and it's definitely been an interesting journey up to this point. So I guess back to the downfall of everything was when I first moved out here. We got this 26 acres out in the country, moved out here, and it's going to be hot. I turned the air off before this started because I figured it would be loud. But moved out here, 26 acres. Internet was little to nothing. The offerings were like, you get maybe 1.25 meg download and 0.25 upload. So slim to none. We moved on to the Elon Musk internet, and that was all right if you're not actually trying to stream or upload or anything of that nature. So the longest time it was just me carrying on with fish keeping and just not really having the internet to share with you all and the rest of the world that did have an interest in it, and that was frustrating. But we still had the fish tanks and everything was still going all right. And I guess let me preface all of this with, it's not a sob story. I don't want anybody to feel bad for me, but this is to answer the questions that I've been getting asked, and this way I can at least, well, I was going to say defer people over to this. Hey, you can watch the first couple minutes and that'll kind of explain it to you in a nutshell. Um, Gonna have to learn how to YouTube again since I can't even get the orientation right, but it is what it is. So fish keeping was going good. Had really big plans. We moved in this 12 by 16 storage building, and this was going to be the fish room. So I went out, spent several $1,000s on tanks, and sat down with grid paper and all of that, and did all the mathematizing, and had this thing figured out, like inch per inch, packed in with fish tanks. Well, this, for anybody that doesn't know, I am still in East Tennessee, even though we moved. It's just out in the middle of nowhere, East Tennessee. And our weathers generally aren't, or winters rather, the weather generally is not that bad. I've had years where it's Christmas Day and it's 74 degrees outside. This past winter though, we ran into 7 to 10 days, around a week of negative temperatures, double-digit negatives, so negative 10, negative 12 Fahrenheit. Things are, because buildings in general are not built for that around here. You know, that's not in the code requirements, and I know we've got some people up north who are like, man, we deal with that all the time. That's nothing. And you're right, it's not. It's not a big deal when it's expected, when you prepare for it, when local building code requires things to be built for that. It's not a big deal. So that was a shocker when that came in. And the reason that that's important is because that took out just about everything. Even though, like we did, once we found out that weather was going to hit, did everything we could to prepare. I had not, as you can see, and have still not at this point, had not insulated this shed for the winter because I'm like, well, given what I know of the temperature fluctuations inside this building, and like I've been cooling it throughout the summertime, I know how many degrees variable I can pull off inside versus outside with just what's going on, and I can always drape some heavy movie blankets to kind of make the size smaller and heat less area. So like it'll be fine. You know, we'll make it through. It shouldn't be a problem. Well, those temperatures came along, and let's see, it was just kind of one thing after another. Negative double-digit temperatures. We had a heater short out in here in the fish room, so that dropped pretty much everything in here because I didn't have individual tanks heated -1 or 2. That dropped most of the tanks in here down 40-50 degrees with just the one heater running. As you can probably imagine, lost almost all of the fish except for the fish that I had in the 1 or 2 tanks that did have, thank goodness, individual heaters, co-op heaters as a matter of fact. Unfortunately, those are not a thing anymore. But the other thing that happened was all of my tanks that I had stored, thousands of dollars in tanks that I'd bought for the build, most of them, almost all of them cracked. I think I've got 5 tanks left that the bottom didn't just shatter out of them in the cold. And that may have been a combination of getting some water in there or snow and freezing and popping. Of course, hindsight always being 2020, I look back and I go, man, I didn't do my due diligence on weather prepping all the tanks that were being stored. That being said, life gets in the way, I suppose is a good way to put it. You know, we were looking at, not that fish aren't a real life issue, and it still kills me, and that's part of why I was gone for so long, is it broke my heart too much to even come in here. But it was things like, because it's also on the same 26 acres, it's myself, the missus, our 2 kids, you know, the dogs, the cats, and then my mother, my sister and her kids are also out on the property. So it was things like, you know, can we get the well prepped to where the well's not going to blow out? How do we kind of get the houses to where they're going to be warm enough? How do we keep the people alive and the other animals alive? Which sounds like, I guess, overreactive if you're somebody that's accustomed to living in those temperatures. But I mean, it was the coldest temps in a long time. They actually issued a state of emergency, and a lot of people died from the cold around here. Because you also had, power outages. Things are just not built around here to handle that stuff. So that took out most of the tanks, most of the fish. But it was like, okay, I've still got a few things left. But we had brought one of the big dogs into here so we could stay warm during that. And unfortunately, he's a sweetheart, but his destructive nature came out. So he destroyed a lot of stuff, chewed a lot of cords off things, and just kind of, overall, like I looked at the damage at one point, it was like $800 worth of stuff that was destroyed. He chewed up most of like the indestructible aquarium co-op specimen containers. I finally met their match, and it's a 120-pound dog that really likes to chew stuff. But I will say this, they lasted, it's a chew toy. They're probably the cheapest heavy-duty chew toy that I've ever bought for that dog. But my best guess in terms of the other thing that happened that kind of was the final collapse of everything. Best guess is he had gotten a hold of one of the individual heater cords and pulled it up, because the tank had a glass top on it. So I'm guessing he had like chewed and yanked and whatnot and pulled it above water line. Because we ended up having a fire in here, and didn't destroy anything per se. It melted the rim on a tank and blackened out, which I was still wiping some of the soot off of stuff, and everything needs a wipe down. But where it did the real damage was that everything's on a linear piston pump, and it sucked that up, pushed that into the tanks, and then it clogged all of the nozzles. So I've been going through, I need to completely disassemble that system and clean the interior of all of the PVC, but it clogged all of the nozzles. And so we lost air to everything. And I'll jump back into the chat here and grab some stuff shortly, but I see where Harley said she tried the DIY filter idea and it worked great. I'm glad to hear that, and I appreciate that you watched that and also that you tried it. That was one of my favorite little projects, is just turning trash into usable things. One of the things I do still have, where I used to take the fish food container, same container I used in that, and make little grater boxes with a piece of mesh. But so that's basically where that put me. And now we have no fish, and have had no fish for quite some time now. And to be honest, that hurt. That was kind of the final kick for me, because I had already kind of, in a way, lost that constant connection with my family, with you all, in terms of my fish family, and being able to interact with everybody on a regular basis due to the internet. But I still had my hobby, and that was, hey, we're going to do this, we're going to build over. We know that the fiber internet's coming, which is what we have now, and it'll be great when we get that and we can just jump back into it, and YouTube will be what YouTube is. But then it was, okay, that's all the fish. All the fish are gone. And it took me a long time to really be able to come back in here. So honestly, I just kind of said to heck with it, and I left everything. I didn't even break everything down because I really didn't have the heart to. It was so devastating. So the tanks kept going. I switched over to this other linear air pump that I had bought, used as a backup. It runs okay. It doesn't do what it needs to do. But it handles some of the stuff. So I've still got some plants and things that we'll take a look around here in a minute. But, you know, I didn't even bother turning off the lights or any of that stuff. Everything just kind of set out here. Lights still on timers, just evaporating. And then I finally was like, you know, I miss it. I miss, even if I didn't start this up again with the YouTube, I miss having the aquariums in my life. I kind of miss that sense of purpose. And I know it will take a lot to rebuild, and it's going to take time. And we're not doing anything until this is fully insulated and built off, because what can go wrong will go wrong, as was proven. But we're going to slowly build up again and start over, which is why I've ordered some plants from Aquarium Co-op. Corey, it's good to see you as well. Still been watching all of your stuff, maybe not vocally, but always good to see you too. And I saw you put a tip in there, and I'll check that here in a minute in terms of fixing that. But bought some plants, and I've got to say I like the mystery pack plant option. I was talking about this a little in the chat the other day, but I was kind of looking, and I was like, well, I know I want to order some pogo, and I know I want a dwarf chainsword. I want some other plants too, but I don't really know exactly what I want. I don't have a set direction at this point. It's not like, well, I'm going to make a tank, or I'm going to escape a tank, and it's going to look like this. It's just like, I know I want to get some plants in. I've got glass boxes holding water with filters and lights and everything already, so I might as well get them in, let them convert over, and start doing their thing. And so I ordered the mystery box, and one of the things that I thought was fun about it was that I got some plants that I typically wouldn't have picked. And I'm going to set you all being the chat, not the camera, right there for a second. So I ordered the pogo, pick all these bags up, and then I ordered dwarf chainsword. And then the other plants were moneywort, cryptocorn lutea, red melon sword, red flame sword, I got another dwarf chainsword, so I thought that was nice, and then dwarf sagittarius. But those particular swords I've never kept before, and not for any other reason than it's one of those, I've never had it. I know that I do well with these plants, so I'm going to continue to buy these plants. But I like it. I think it looks nice, and I think it'll look really nice once I actually get a tank set up and start getting this stuff planted. One of the things that I guess I want to mention, or that I was thinking about when I got the order in, was, I guess, clearing up a misnomer or perception. So, like the pogo, it came in, and I love pogo. I'm trying to find, there we go. So it came in, and it was pretty much all broken off at the pot. And Corey, if you're still listening, I'm not complaining. I don't want we'll take care of that, because this where I'm getting with this is, I want people to realize when these plants come in, one of the biggest things is you're kind of buying the root system. A lot of times, depending upon how long any suppliers had it, it may have little to no submerged time. So a lot of it will probably die off and have to convert over to being submerged versus growing immersed from the farms. But all that pogo that somebody might have said, oh, well, this is broken off, I'm just going to throw it out. Let's see if we can get in there. I should have set up my actual setup and not just the phone, but those little white roots under there, that's all new. And the little white roots under there. So I'm a huge proponent of, when you get new plants in, pogo or not, float the darn things, and give them time. Give them time to grow out and do what they need to do and convert over. I've got a couple more leaves that I need to pull off some other stuff. Because I know oftentimes people, and it's probably people that will never see my little video, but oftentimes people go, oh man, I got this plant, and you know, it's got parts of it broken off, or it doesn't look great. If you buy these things from the mindset of I'm buying the building blocks of owning this plant, as in the root system, that basic structure, and understand that you're going to have die-off, or this pogo's broken off. That's fine. I was going to float it anyways. I wasn't going to pot it, but even if you were going to pot it, you could just take and stick it down, and it's going to do just fine. So that was kind of my thing, was get some plants in. Maybe they don't look perfect to you, or maybe you start to have some die-off. Calm down. Do a little bit of research. Understand the way plants work, I guess is a good way to put it. How that process actually goes in terms of buying aquarium plants. And you'll be fine. But that's where we're at now. We've got these. I'm going to jump into the chat real quick and answer any questions that may have popped up while I was talking about that. Then we'll take a look around. It's weird to see myself on screen again. Give me my chat, please. And there we go. We are on live. All right. Fortunately, one of the good things about being gone for a while is the fact that audience base is kind of smaller, and I appreciate each and every one of you all being here. But it's easy to get to everything in here. Lots of great to sees. It's great to see all of you all as well. It really, really is. Kareem Co-op said, I tried hooking up an air compressor to the PDC system with all the air lines off, valves closed. Each one go open, close to clear the blockages. That's definitely not a bad idea, and I may try that. I'll probably do that as the finishing piece to it, because I've already pulled some of the valves and cleaned them, and it's not so bad. I've got a little, I don't even know what this actually is, but I've got this little thing that I've always kept in the fish room. It's got the prongs on this end, so I've kind of poked them out with that. But given that I know that there is a lot of soot accumulation on the interior of the PVC, I want to kind of take and snake it all out, and since I am going to have it apart anyways, hands-on with all of it, I may just go ahead and do a 100% cleanup on those and finish off with the air blowout. That's a good way to make sure that it's completely clear versus just the stuff I can physically get to. So I appreciate that tip very much. That looks like the bottom of the chat, so that was easy enough. That's a lot easier than it used to be. Not that I'm complaining about the audience we used to have, but I guess, who wants to take a look around? I'm going to grab some water real quick, because it is getting very hot in here, but I know that's the controller for the AC unit. I know if I turn that on, it's going to be loud, and I don't have my good noise canceling mic and all that stuff hooked up. I do need to, I guess, get the laptop out here and start running it. I hope that the reception is doing well. We are on the Wi-Fi, but it's fiber internet with a really good router modem setup, all of that, so the Wi-Fi should be doing phenomenally well in theory. All right, let's see. Yes, I'm excited for Rebuild. I love building fish rooms. I do too. It's a shame that, well, good to see you as well. It's a shame that I don't have a lot of the things that I was going to have. Let's flip this around. Let's do that. These are already getting condensation just from where I turned the air off when I started. Let's take a peek outside real quick. We're not going to go on the grand tour, but just so you all can kind of see all of my mess. Those are the tanks that we're going to go set up in here. And there's the 220, which I don't know if you can see it or not. Hey, that does zoom. Okay. Just completely shattered. And that's what the bottom of most of those look like. I think we've still got 3 of those that are functional. There's that big tank that I brought back from one of the aqua shallows. Bottom blew out of that. So we've still got, in terms of larger tanks, I have a 90, I have a 75, I think I have the 100 gallons still. I need to verify all of those as well. I know that those didn't shatter, but I need to water test them all. Um, and then I've got, I think, maybe 5 or 6 29s. And I think that's about it for anything that's over 20 gallons. I do have the two 20-gallon rimless display aquascaping style tanks still. And then we've got, I don't know, maybe 40 10-gallon tanks. We've got those 20s, and then all those 20s over there that I also bought for the build. But I have a thought, a theory, a plan on how to, I don't necessarily want to say fix those big tanks, but to rebuild them in a usable fashion without going full plywood build, since it is just the bottom. I don't know that I want to share that at this point on how I want to try it, because I don't even know if it will actually work. And even if I do it and it actually works, I want to put a huge disclaimer on it of, don't try this at home. I'm not recommending it, but I'm out a couple $1,000 and I'm going to try and recoup this in some way. So we'll see how that works. Most of these are just algae, lots of algae. Sorry, I'm wiping the glass off over here. Lots of algae. And we've still got a couple things. We've got hornwort and guppy grass and a lot of stuff. The running off cows situation. Yes, the cow situation is fixed. The gentleman that had an agreement to maintain some cows out here, we finally got him to understand that he needed to get the cows out of here and it wasn't those people's property any longer. So yeah, the cow situation's fixed. This tank has done really well. I scraped some of the algae. I need to get a new algae scraper. All my blades are rusted at this point. I've still got sponges, which do good for regular maintenance, but when you've got 4 months worth of buildup on something, it takes a bit. I think we have maybe 5 cherry shrimp, and that's the extent of the livestock currently. But I'm going to pull this apart, clean it real good, and get it set back up. There's the tank that melted and caught fire. This here, unfortunately, the moss did so well that it grew up and over, killed everything on the bottom, but we've still got all this giant mat network of moss. So, and this is pretty thick in terms of how deep this stuff goes. So that's nice. That's a lot of moss to start out with. I feel almost half bad, I guess is the way to put it. With Corey being in the stream and there's just aquarium co-op stuff everywhere, like it was a planned out thing. No, that's just how I live my life, very co-op style. And then of course we've got the new plants that are settling in, converting over. I caught a couple of the shrimp I could find and tossed them in here just to kind of poke around and pick at the plants and whatnot. I am thinking, again, because I'm not going to go full fish room build out until I've got this insulated, which is going to take some time to do that. That's materials wise. Because I'm going to wire it when I insulate it, because there's no reason in insulating it and not having it wired. But build out wise, I think that was like $1,800 when I priced out materials on that. So that's going to be a gradual process. But once it's actually insulated and we start the legitimate fish room build, and I've got 40 breeders left, lots of algae, which is going away. I've been playing, which is not what I normally do, but I've been playing Murder the Algae with Easy Carbon. And it's been going really well, because this was like 90% algae. You couldn't even see the bottom of this thing. And now most of it's gone. We've got this little tray of plants. It's just dying to get out and go somewhere else. So we need to get that planted. More hornwort. It's done surprisingly well, which, I mean, that's hornwort. It's great until it's not. And I think I had one tank that it went gnawed in, and it started to fall apart. But kind of trying to recover what I could recover. But and then it's just empty tanks and some of the art and stuff like that. Let's flip this. Yes, I do definitely need to get some easy flow kits. That was one of the things in the build was I was just going to start converting over to, let's flip this and let's get this back. Start converting the tanks over to sponge filter, aquarium carp sponge filters with the easy flow kits. I've got one now that I've flipped this around, but it's actually in that top tank that had all the algae, or not algae. That's all the other tanks. The moss tank did great at not getting any algae, but I've got one up in that moss tank, and I love it. And I guess for legal purposes, to be clear, it was one of the things that you did send to me, or the aquarium co-op sent to me on the program, whatever it was called. So I didn't pay for it, so I guess take it for what you will that I got it free, and I'm telling you I love it. But I really do love it, and those of you that have been around for a while know that I have finagled a lot of things together with PVC or with uplift tubing or just any type of tubing I could get that I could fit onto a sponge filter and then bring up to a 90, which the 90 was never optimal, but it was at least better, I guess, in the sense of the water flow and directing the water flow. So having the easy flow kit is just like, it's perfect. I don't have to try and bend PVC and figure all that out. Corey's done all that work, and he's done all the different degrees and measurements. Well, we really want it, another degree off this way, so it makes it simple for me. Audra, thank you. Saying sorry for the fisher struggles. Beard is epic. I appreciate that very much. I took it all off a couple months ago, and the missus was like, "No, you don't get to do that. Don't touch my beard," is what she said. So it's coming back. Appreciate you. But it's gonna be fun in the sense of getting to start over. Like I said, I've got to see what I can make happen with those. I don't know if they're 80 or 90 gallon, the blue tanks. Those are what you would see in a local fish store that's stacked 3 high. I know Corey's probably cringing because I've heard him say before, I can get those things for $50 and I don't even use them. But I think part of that goes into, I don't want to utilize them the way that most fish stores do, where they're on a loop together. I want to get them set up as individual systems, so they won't all go, oh, well, this tank got it, we all got it, like you see in a lot of local fish stores. But I'm going to try and get those, at least enough of them fixed so that we can still make that happen. Because the original layout for this, and it took a lot of mapping and nickel and diming and robbing Peter to pay Paul to make it happen. The original layout for this consisted of 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 of those. So 8 with another one stacked on top, because they will stack 3 high. I just don't have the room for that. So we'll get the channel monetized again. I can help with some equipment. I appreciate you very, very much. That means a lot. And definitely it would be great to get, I don't necessarily want to say monetized again, though that's always cool. But especially because currently I have no income, and I say that because the missus is the one that went back to work for personal reasons, I guess we'll put it. She spent a decade taking care of the kids and letting me work, so she was like, hey, why don't you take care of the kids and I'll go get the job. So I was like, I mean, fair enough. That's fair enough. So I don't like pulling away from, me sitting at home taking care of the kids, going, hey, I need a whole bunch of fish stuff. can we make that happen? Although she's like, you get what you need. I'm like, well, a little bit at a time. But anyways, I would be nice to have the same impact, to be able to have that same effect that I had before. That would be awesome, to be able to help people on that level. But the biggest thing that I'm really focusing on right now is just getting back my hobby, and having to fish again, being able to come out here and get lost in a tank. And that was kind of part of what I was doing, even though you're like, well, that's a lot of tanks. And you know, each one of those sets also had 4 10-gallon long ways on top of it. And then I was going to build out a rack in the center of the room with the 20s on it, which is still a lot of tanks. The 10s were mostly going to be just set up with plants and put fry in them and utilize them that way. And a lot of the larger blue tanks, even though they're split into thirds, some of them, they aren't all split into thirds, and any that I don't want split into thirds, I can just take that piece of glass out because it was just siliconed in. So it was kind of, even though it was upgrading fish room wise, it was downsizing quantity wise. That way I could kind of, okay, instead of having 80 tanks, let's have 40 tanks or whatever. And spend a little bit more time on each one and go through and set up. So that's where I'm like, all right, right now I just want to get this tank set up, get it where I can enjoy it. I've been thinking about like white clouds, since they do well with low temperatures, in the event that we did have some low temperatures. And I guess I should answer a question that I'm sure some people will have, which is, well, why didn't you just move the fish inside? This goes more into the personal stuff, which I was trying to keep out of it and keep it more fishy. But, you know, we are at this point still in a 30-foot RV because we're fighting the battle of getting 2 mobile homes that were left on the property either off of the property or relinquished. So 2 of the 3 sites that are set with power and septic and all of that, we're not even being able to utilize at this point. We're in a, 4 people in a 30-foot RV. Tiny living is great, except when it's not. So there was no room to bring stuff in, and not just the room. Even if I had piled in things, the electrical load, it's not built to handle that. It's just not. Even like when we had that real bad cold, I was running drops in from another power source through the windows, insulating, just to be able to run the additional heaters to keep us above, 50, 60 degrees. So trying to plug in things inside was just not a possibility with all the fish, unfortunately. So I guess address that, because somebody will say, well, why didn't you move them inside? Well, I didn't really have an inside to move them into that would have worked. But I've been wanting to get back into the live stream, talking to you all, doing videos. That'll be a fun experience to start off again. Hello, the office. But really, I've missed the hobby. I've missed it a lot, and I've been going along with a lot of you all, following your journeys, watching what's been going on with, your hobbies. And it's one of those things that, just like when I got back into it, was it, I guess, 8 or 9 or 10 years ago, after being out of it for a couple of years, the missus is like, you really need to set up a fish tank. Like it affects you in a huge way. It's one of those things that for your happiness and mental health, you need to have aquariums in your life. And it's like, I guess I do. Let me set them up. Oh, hey, you're right. This is great. I missed this, even when I didn't realize I missed it years ago. So I'm really looking forward to that, and I'm looking forward to sharing with you all. It's not going to be the greatest content, and I really want to approach this from a, not that I didn't always try to do this, but I guess I want to be more clear with it. This is what I'm doing, this is my journey, and this is what I know is working or isn't working for me, and I'd love to share that with you, and not the not from a place of authority, because I never wanted to be or intended to be in a place of authority, but it kind of got to ask James, and that's great. But I guess some people set me, I don't want to say on a pedestal, but they put me in a position of information authority or knowledge, and I really want to stress that I'm just, you know, I'm just me. I'm just a chubby guy with fake teeth and a whole bunch of fish tanks that don't have fish in them right now, that just really loves what he's doing and has been doing it in mass for most of his life. So I'm not an expert on anything. I'm just an expert on my experiences, if that, and I can share those things with you. Because I know a lot of people are like, well, you know, we know you don't have fish tanks, but you could still stream and educate people, and that's fine as long as people understand. I can only educate you on how I've done things and how I know to or not to do things and what's worked for me, and things that I've, you know, done over the course of hundreds and hundreds of aquariums over, I guess, a couple of decades now. So just take that for what it's worth for the tagline. I'm here to share my hobby. I guess is my new journey, and I hope that we'll have a bunch of people come along with me. And I hope that my journey is helpful to a lot of people. But I don't want to trick myself or get tricked into feeling like I'm the go-to guy for telling you how to do this. I'm not. I never intended to be that way. So I've heard some comments and things, and if I ever came across that way, that wasn't my intent, and I apologize for it. But I've been trying to keep up on the chat. Let's go back to this chat. Next time I'll have the computer set up. One of the reasons I didn't do it for this stream was because like I just have the free StreamYard, I guess is the best way to put it. So I knew that I could just turn this on and in theory run with it, but we ended up incorrectly oriented even though I chose horizontal, which last I knew, unless that's changed, that meant with the horizon, but it's what it is. Appreciate all of you being here, 25 people hanging out. That's awesome. Thank you so very much. Hip Hop Hillbilly says, I've got a 20-gallon 4 pea puffers, 4 or 5 Venezuela orange cories, and 1 surviving peacock gudgeon. I lost 2 to a heat wave with no AC and the heater was broke. Would a bristlenose be too much? Algae is getting bad. So again, this is for me personally. Could you throw a bristlenose in there and make it work? Yeah. What I personally, it's fully planted. Okay, so if it's fully planted with that load, I mean, yeah, you could definitely get by with it. You could. If the algae is getting bad, I'm still a huge proponent of, even though we can add things like Florida flagfish and stuff like that, which that's one that would be, not that I'm suggesting you add that one, but that's one that does a lot better than plecos typically on the algae, unless, like I've found personally, the bristlenose do really well with the diatomaceous algae, that brown algae that you get on the glass. It's kind of dusty when you sweep it away. I would probably start, and what I generally would recommend if it's me, I'm going to look at what are my parameters at that's causing that. Get in there, do a bunch of manual removal as best you can, and then look at, is it too much, how do I phrase this, not too much, well, I guess, yeah, excess nutrients, as in nutrients that the plants don't need, even though it could be at the same time, you know, hey, I've got way too much, we'll say potassium, but I don't have enough of the other thing that the plants need. So I would kind of look at what's my dosing schedule? Are the plants getting all of the things that they need to be able to scrub the water? One of the first things I typically do is I'll turn the lighting down and or back a bit, meaning either lowering the intensity of it or lowering the time length. It preface that even. Hey Candy, it's great to see you. If you don't have your lights on a timer, I highly recommend that you do that. I need to try my Casa Wi-Fi timer I got. I haven't tried it out yet, but I need to get that set up. It's in my little pile of stuff over there that needs to be taken out and worked with. Hip Hop Hillbilly said, do feed a decent amount. I want to keep it frozen every other day. Lights are okay, so if your lights are 4 to 6 hours, I would probably look at if you have the ability to bring the intensity down a little bit, do that. Do some manual removal if it's me, and then get a water change on it and see where you're sitting at. The thing is that a lot of people want the right now, which again, I rarely ever use this. They want the right now. Let me put this is easy carbon if you can't see. Let me put some carbon in there. Let me put some algicide in there. I need the algae gone today, as if they were submitting a photo for a global aquascaping event. It takes time to get the balance back, and that's really what I typically will focus on, is getting the balance back. If you've got, like say, a lot of tanks, and you have some place that you're like, oh, I could get some Florida algae eaters, Florida flagfish in there to eat the algae, and then I've got a good home from over here that I actually want them to go in, that can be a great thing too. But the main reason I personally don't oftentimes recommend throwing in a fish to solve the problem is a lot of times people don't really have a plan for that fish after the fact. And yeah, Hip Hop, I know that you are patient, but a lot of people aren't, and they want it now. How do I fix this now? But take a couple weeks, and it's usually, I try and fix a thing at a time. So yeah, do a water change, or do the manual removal, and then get in there with the gravel vac and suck out any of the floating debris and stuff. Get your water change in. I would lower the intensity some on your lights. You're already at what I would call a fairly low duration in terms of the 4 to 6 hours. But given that you said 4 to 6, there are a couple of variables there. It could be that you're doing it manually all the time, or it could be that you have them on a timer for 4, and sometimes you're in there more and you flick it over, like, well, not right now, but earlier I had the timer on manual override so that all the lights would come on. But I would definitely get it on a timer so that you're getting the exact same amount of light in there every day, and okay, my plants are getting this much light. I'm still having this problem. You still want to dose. If you're dosing fertilizer, dose fertilizer. If you're not getting the fertilizer to the plants, get some fertilizer to the plants. Because once those plants are getting all the things they need, basically the goal is to get them to outcompete the algae. And that's what I've always tried for anyways, is, okay, yeah, we've got algae. How do we make it to where the plants can soak up all the things that the algae is using? Because the algae versus the plants might need, we'll say, 5 things, in terms of nutrients to grow properly. Algae could take any one of those things. So if you've got 4 of them out of the 5 and your plants are going, not great, algae's still got 4 things that it can live off of and thrive off of. So start with the lights, give it a couple weeks, see if that helps. If you notice that the algae is slowing down and going away, great. If not, then I would really look at, you said it's fully planted, so I'm assuming it's pretty lush in there, pretty thick. You may want to try and get some additional fertilizers, nutrients in there, just to make sure that the plants have all of the things that they need to be able to outcompete that algae. But I personally would start with the lights. That's where I'm going. And I know that was a ramble, and that was a lot. That was a horrible answer compared to how I used to be able to answer questions, but I hope that covered it. Hip Hop Hillbilly says, I have 2 pretty much full-size bristle nose in my 40. Was going to just move one over, manually turn it on, but with lower intensity. Definitely probably need to use more root tabs. Will do. Yeah, so if you've already got a bristle nose and you want to throw it in there and see what it can do, 100%. Yeah, you already have another home for it. You already have a backup. Knowing that, I would say, yeah, throw them in there. It should be fine. The others shouldn't give them a problem. Peep puffers can pick at stuff, but bristle nose are generally good at getting the heck away from things. So definitely, if you've already got them and you have another home for them to go to, great. That's a completely different thing than should I buy this fish to fix this problem. This, hey, I already have this fish in another tank. Should I transfer it over for a bit? Yes, I've done that plenty of times. Let's see. Yeah, get some more root tabs in there just to make sure that they're getting everything they need and can outcompete that algae. So yeah, get in there. And honestly, timers, even if you don't go with a Wi-Fi timer, you can get the manual ones, which is what I have up there with the lights on it for now. I apologize. It is very, very warm in here because the air's been off, but I bet if I turn it on, it's going to cause issues with the mic. Let's see if I can even get this remote to turn the darn thing on. You can get one of those manual timers where you just kind of pop in and out the half-hour increments or 15-minute increments that you want it on, and that is a really, really good place to start, and it's going to make life a lot easier because, I mean, life happens to all of us, so it's real easy to go, oh shoot, you know what, I turned that light on and something happened and I had to run out, or I forgot about it, or I was watching TV and I took a nap. And next thing you know, well, today they had 8 hours, and then, you know, tomorrow they get 4 hours, and then they get 6 hours after that, and that can make it difficult to control the algae, because not only then are you varying the amount of light that the plants are getting and that you're giving the algae. Yes, snaps are good liquid zoo. You're also varying the required amount of nutrients that those plants need on a regular basis. So you could kind of think of it like, well, if I run, which obviously I'm not running anywhere. I need to, but you know, if I go and I run, we'll just say 4 miles every day, I know that requires X amount of calories for me to re-energize my body. And you're thinking the 4 hours of running being your lights, and then the calories required to sustain that being your fertilizers. Well, if I run 6 hours, that's a different amount of calories. That's a different amount of fertilizer. If I run for 8 hours today and then 2 hours tomorrow, I've utilized different amounts of calories, i.e. different amounts of fertilizer each one of those days, different amounts of nutrients each one of those days. So that you kind of end up fighting yourself. So I'm usually a proponent of not having to go buy things, but I think a timer is just one of those cheap little things. You pick one up at Walmart or whatever for $4 or $5 for a non-Wi-Fi one, and I think that's probably, if you were going to invest any money anywhere at this point, get them set on a specific time length, and then work from there. And that'll make your life a lot easier, because there won't be any guessing. There won't be any, well, did I give them 4 hours of light yesterday? Was it 6? And how much fertilizer did they eat in 4 versus 6? And I don't know. It's hard to dose correctly. Barbara Jackson, it's good to see you too. It's hard to dose efficiently. I won't say correctly. It's hard to dose efficiently, at least for me, when I already have what I'm looking at for my dosing guide be a variable. I don't think we had any other questions. We'll give it, I guess, about 6 more minutes here. We'll run it up to the hour. If anybody has any more questions, please let me know. I really wish this remote would work for this air conditioner. We'll be fine for a couple minutes. Sweat it out. But that's where we're at. I'm currently debating. So again, I've got a long list of things I need to do. I need to clear the linear air setup, and I need to get some things cleared out. I need to pull all the sponge filters and get the algae killed off of them and get them ready to go again. You can see the condensation just where it's gotten a lot warmer while I've been talking. well, maybe you can't with this camera, but I can see the condensation. But I think what I'm going to start out with is bringing in either the 75 or the 90 gallon that I still have left. The 90 gallon, if I bring it in, then I'm going to have to either cap the plumbing, because it's actually a reef ready tank, meaning it's got the back overflow piece and it's double drilled to run to a sump. So I either will need to cap it off or to run it, at least even if it's not a full sump system, run it into something and then pump the water back up, which I can do. I've still got some pumps. But the big issue there is I'll need to build a stand for it, because the stand that I had it on, I disassembled it, because I have a lot of stands, as you all are probably aware of, that saw my old stuff, and it was just easier to move and store those things when we came out here in pieces. And then eventually I was like, well, I'm going to do it different anyway, so I just took that wood and had other uses for it. But I think I would like to start with one of those, get the substrate in it, get the plants in it, and then order some shrimp. I think that's where I'm going to go with it. I've been thinking a lot of, well, what do I want to do? And again, I've also had the thought of some light clouds, because also I've got some single heaters, so even if we did have some crazy once in a century weather happen again, I've got the single heaters so that I could burn through the wattage and keep those going on a big tank. And that will at least allow me to kind of get back in the hobby, because yeah, I've got boxes full of water, and I've got all these, breaks my heart, these awesome co-op lights that are not going to be a thing now, at least for a while anyway. But lots of algae and a couple of plants, so I think that's where we're going to start out with. You're going to see one big tank, and then if I put one big tank, I can work around it, do what I need to do, wire, plumb, insulate, all that stuff. And then at most I would just need to move it once in doing the flooring, and get the flooring partially done, move it over into place where it's actually going to go, and then be good, because it wouldn't be too hard to just drain it low, have somebody else lift and move it on a stand, and then once we get the full thing done, start from there. The other thing, so I will have some other tanks, but not with fishing. I'm going to set up several other tanks, scrub them out clean, start them over, and take all of this moss that's up top here that I was showing you all, and get it portioned out into a bunch of other tanks. That way it's got plenty of room to go, because if I hadn't had it all crammed in there, I'd probably have, I don't know, 20 gallons worth of moss at this point, which would be nice. I've got a couple of projects, because I've still got like a lot of the driftwoods and things and all my hardscape and stuff, but I've got a bunch of peacock wood that I intended to do some peacock wood moss trees with. So that'll be the other thing that you all see from the get-go, and then I'll share as we progress. Hey, this is what I think I'm going to do, or hey, this is the thing. But it's mostly going to be lots of plants and then shrimp, maybe a couple of fish and stuff. And I appreciate all the love and support from all of you all. Again, this was not, I didn't want to come on here with a sob story, which is why, part of why it's taken me so long to do it, is because it was really emotional for me. Most of the fish I had, if not all of the fish I had, were like, when we moved, I downsized a lot before we moved, because I didn't want to try and move all of those fish. So it was a lot of, okay, what can I get rid of and could be replaced, and what is not replaceable? And so it was those not replaceable things. It was things like, well, yeah, that's just a blue guppy. But that wasn't, that particular blue guppy, I spent 2 years trying to get it. Like I'm thinking like the Bentley Pascal Blues. That took me this long to try and get a hold of them, and I got them from this specific person at this specific show, and I got these endlers were from this particular person at this particular show. This is a line that I've been working on for 4 years. It was a lot of things that I was emotionally invested in, even though they're fish and some people wouldn't understand that. I feel like you all can kind of understand that. So it took a while for me to even be able to come out here and just tell the story as it is. What's up, Skipper? Without kind of losing it a little bit. But I appreciate you all. Just making sure I didn't miss anything last second. It has been an hour and I am sweating like crazy. Fortunately, I've got the co-op black on so you can't see the armpit stains really, but I promise you they're there. Seriously, thank you all. And it's great to not just get to hang out with you all like I do when I'm in the other chats, but actually get to relay and convey what's been going on or answer your questions and get to hang out in this sense. So a huge shout out. I think we're going to try to do just a once a week. I haven't decided a specific time. Part of that is when can I do it with the kids. So last thing, our teenager, he's special needs and he's got to be essentially eyes on at all times. So that's part of the issues. Well, when do I set it up? Well, it kind of is varying right now, but I am trying to work it out, like with Grandma, to get a schedule to where I can go, okay, this is what I'm going to do consistently every week, this time. Can you provide childcare so that I can go do this while she's at work, because she works a lot. The missus, that is, bless her heart. So again, I'm going to do my best to get on a nice consistent schedule for you all. But if nothing else, I'll make sure that I do some pop-ups. And there may be some pop-ups included of, well, I've got it scheduled once a week, but I'm doing this cool thing and I want to show you all right now. So appreciate you all very, very much. Thank you all for hopping on. I love you guys. Until next time, keep your fish healthy, keep yourselves healthy. Don't be afraid to catch yourself a little fish from fever. Bye, everybody.